I want to talk about one of the most common questions I hear from podcasters. What is a good listenership size? And while I understand why that's a natural question to ask, I have to tell you it's not the right one. It's a bit like being in a band and asking how many followers do I need to be successful? Think about it. An I'm a piano artist doesn't expect the same audience size as a futuristic Afro jazz fusion artist. They're both successful, but they appeal to different audiences. And podcasters are no different. Success isn't measured by audience size alone. It depends on who your audience is, and more importantly, what are you trying to achieve. So let's break this down. As podcasters, we often feel pressured to grow a massive audience. But here's the reality. What's more important is the quality of your listeners. Sure, numbers do matter to some extent, but if you have a small, loyal, and highly engaged audience, you might be more valuable to the right brand than a podcast with tens of thousands of passive listeners. Think about brands. What they're looking for is no longer just this mass reach. That's what they're already getting with Facebook ads and Google ads, and they dominate already. They've got reach. And brands want something different on top when they sponsor a podcast. They want a personal connection with an audience, a close-up and personal experience. Nothing else can give you that except for podcasts. Let me put it this way. Brands want to be inside the conversation with the listeners. Podcasting gives that unique, intimate opportunity, which is why the quality of your audience is far more valuable than the size. Let's go back to the music analogy. Imagine you're a band trying to find success. You wouldn't measure your value solely by how many people follow you on social media. You'd focus on how passionate these followers are. Are they buying tickets to your shows? Are they sharing your music? Are they telling their friends about you? And it's the same for podcasts. It's really easy to fake a giant audience, but it's hard to maintain a loyal audience. So if you build a highly engaged niche audience, you can deliver something far more valuable than just a large number. And it all comes down to your goals and what you're trying to achieve with your podcast. If you're creating a podcast for a specific community or a niche topic, a smaller, dedicated following can be your biggest asset. And that's what brands care about, the engagement and the connection to your audience has with you, not just the size of the crowd. Next time you find yourself asking, how many listeners do I need? Ask, who are my listeners and how engaged are they? It's time for us podcasters to stop obsessing over arbitrary numbers and start focusing on building a community that is deeply invested in what they have to say. Now, don't get me wrong, numbers do play a role, especially when it comes to monetization. We have to be realistic. If you're getting fewer than 100 listeners per episode, it's going to be difficult to attract a brand or monetization in any meaningful way. That's just the reality of it. But if you can build up to around 1,000 listeners per episode, that's when you start to get things going and get commercially viable. Brands typically look for that kind of threshold to see real returns on sponsorship deals. But again, there's no hard rules. Some niche podcasts have fewer than 1,000 listeners, but still manage to land lucrative brand partnerships because their audience is so engaged, so loyal, and so aligned with the brand's goals. So in a nutshell, first, focus on building a highly engaged, loyal audience. Quality matters more than quantity, especially when it comes to attracting brands. Second, while aiming for your 1,000 listeners per episode as a solid goal for commercial viability, don't forget that success can look different for every podcast. It's not about how many people are tuning in, it's about how deeply they connect with your message. If you found this episode helpful, make sure to subscribe for more insights on how to grow and monetize your podcast. I've got plenty more coming on the way.
Break down the doors, you hold back.